We are live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast, presented by Heineken. It's actually the morning show now. I was thrown off here trying to run a couple things at once. I had a whole intro planned, but just like Toronto FC's best laid plans, they went to waste. As we welcome you in, it's John and Michael today, as Joshua and Sam are on vacation, and boy, did they miss one heck of a game.
You know, you say that Toronto had a plan. I'm not sure I saw much of that out there. That was a historic night for DC United. I don't think we have ever scored 7 goals in an MLS game. I'm still buzzing. I think DC United may have just scored again. We'll have to go back and check and get confirmation there. But it was such a fun game to be at. And, you know, Joshua and Sam obviously missed a great one, but we'll have them back soon. And what a night for DC United.
Yeah, and it was a historic night. You know, first time in DC United's history that they've scored 7 goals in an MLS game. They have scored 7, or I think they scored 8 twice in non-MLS competitions. But also from a league perspective, it was a historic night as the first time that all 7 goals were 7 different goal scorers, which is kind of wild if you think about it. It started out early, and we want to talk through, you know, each and every goal, but you had to be in the stands early for this one because Kevin Paredes found the back of the net on a great setup in the second minute of the game, and they didn't really look back from there.
Absolutely. You know, Andy Yahar really created that opportunity, attacked up the side, and put it in to Kevin. Great to see Kevin with his first MLS goal. Again, Team Sam coming through strong there, but just such a blast. And yeah, we'll get into breaking down the individual goals, but 3 goals in the first 15, 20 minutes. And from there, that was pretty much all she wrote. But this was not a team that was going to let up and say, oh, we're happy with what we've got so far. You talked so many times about this team needing to finish and figure out how to have that quality at the end. It happened today or yesterday, and it happened in a big way.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it felt like it was finally the expected goals reprieve for us. We'd been so many chances they couldn't finish. Expected goals yesterday, I think, were just around 3, and they scored 7. But this was exactly what Hernan Losada's preached all along: was we're going to
yeah,
play
for sure.
hard. We're going to have high pressing style, and multiple times early on, it caught Toronto off.
Yeah, the team came out ready to play. They came out with that killer instinct that we've heard, particularly Brendan Heinzike, talk a number of times ago. It was a very similar lineup to what we've seen. It looks like we may be settling into kind of what we expect to see on the field week in, week out. And right now, it's hard to argue that you need to tweak it. Now, I will preface this we're going to have a lot of great things to say about DC United today, but Toronto was bad.
Toronto are bad, and I think we talked a little bit about it before the game. We were caught up with some tailgate activities and I didn't get my my pregame prediction, but I told you it was going to be 3-1. Couldn't have been more wrong. I was right at halftime.
Can't confirm. Yeah, it was 3-1 at one point.
You're right.
And it had 2-0, and it was 2-0 at one point as well, so we both had something there.
But we looked at this lineup and said, yeah, I think this is probably the top choice lineup at this point. And, we had some good conversations in the stands, and we've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but, only giving up 1 goal. Toronto, not a great team, but we're continuing to play really stout defensively, and the goals finally came through last night. I don't know that Steven Birnbaum immediately finds his way back into this side. The backline pairing right now of Pines, Heinzike, and Nahar, they've been a lot of fun to watch, and it's hard for me to immediately say one of those guys goes to the bench.
For sure. Yeah, and they're guys that are almost inked into the team shirt right now. Like you don't, especially in Nahar, like you don't leave Nahar off for really any reason right now. The form he's playing, I think the team put out a Twitter compilation of all of the goal calls, and it seemed like Nahar's name was popping up at the beginning of each of those because he was involved in some way. I think he was credited with 2 assists at the end of the day, but for a man who did not find the back of the net, what a day and what a chance to create. The team was the team was having fun out there. The team was pressing high. The team was finding those incisive through balls. It was a lot of fun, and that's what we wanted when Losada came in. Again, Toronto, a bad team, but when you're playing a bad team, you should hang a touchdown on them, and we did.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely insane to think of the scoreline every time I'm about to say we're recapping DC United 7-1 victory over Toronto FC yesterday, and you know, I want to talk at some point here in the show just about what it's like to miss these big games, because I felt for Joshua and Sam yesterday early in the game. They're like, oh man, you know, this group in particular, the four of us and a lot of our close friends, we try our best to plan our lives around the schedule, and when things come together, especially with life starting to get back to normal, travel happens, family happens, and you miss a game here and there, and sometimes you miss a snooze fest, and sometimes you miss, you know, one of the games that'll go down in history. And you know, talking to some of the friends of the show yesterday in the stands, Andy Nahar, he's even the DC United fans that were over the moon with him coming back from a nostalgia perspective, I think he's taken their wildest expectations and completely crushed them at this point.
Oh, for sure. You know, really a dream start for him. You know, no indication of knock on wood, but no indication of the numerous injuries he's suffered over the years. He's playing. Again, I was not in the DC area and was not really following the team that closely his last time around, but you know, hearing nothing but glowing reports from him from the previous stint with DC, and it seems to be that he's recapturing that form, and really couldn't happen at a better time. You know, a team that's really, you know, gelling together, a team that is, you know, enjoying what they're doing. You're seeing those bright spots, and you know, we've got a couple weeks until our next game, but this is a great way to go into a break and really be riding on a high and saying, hey, this is working. And you know, I think we have to, you know, call out as well, there is a universe where Hernan Losada is not on our sideline, and Chris Armas is in the black and red instead of in Toronto.
We were dangerously close to that universe.
And yeah, who knows what would have happened there, but if you want to take the very small anecdotal piece, I'm perfectly happy having Losada on our side and Armas at a different color for us.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know, I think we should at this point talk through each and every one of these goals, including the Toronto goal, because it was just a sight to behold yesterday. As I look to who scored, and our internet connection fails us, at least I remember the first goal was Kevin Paredes, as we talked about. Second minute, a ball comes in. I want to say it was Nahar. Ball comes in. Couple players kind of stood over it, let it pass right through, and my initial reaction was, is somebody going to take a swing at this? And it lands right at the feet of a completely unmarked Kevin Paredes, who blasts it into the back of the net with a beautiful finish. And I'll tell you, his celebration, you can tell how much it meant to him. He was overcome by emotion. I think at one point he just leaned over and kissed the ground. So excited, and to do it right in front of the supporters section, like we told him he would. It was awesome, and it was I was sad that Sam and Joshua couldn't have been there for that, because I know that they would have loved it.
Oh, for sure. You know, we've had Kevin on the show a number of times. He's, you know, I think tied, or you know, at least our second most appearances by a guest. He is such a fun player to watch, and you know, starting to get the attention from the national team as well. He's fun, and you know, he doesn't necessarily have to score to contribute to a game, but when you get the goals going early the way he did, again, some horrible defending to watch that ball just kind of go through the box, but DC United created that chance. And there have been plenty of games in these last month or so where that ball would be skied over, or no one would get a touch on it, or the fishing wasn't there. Kevin left no doubt that ball was going directly into the upper 90, and what a strike from him, and so glad to see him get it going. The second goal, I think that really set the tone for the rest of the game. It was a game where every time you turned around, it felt like the ball was in the back of the net again. Something good was happening. DCI was possessing the ball, really taking it to Toronto. I don't know if Toronto wasn't ready to play, or who knows? They might still be on the bus back in Disney from last year. Again, bygones be bygones. But in the 8th minute, had a ball played through to Wertha. Some question whether he was potentially offside, but
on no planet should he have been kept onside there. I think we determined it was the right back was potentially holding him onside. It was out of our field of view, and even in some of the replays, it was hard to see which player was holding him onside. But there was no protesting by Toronto.
Yeah, and played him through, and he steps up and is clinical and really taking advantage of the chance to get those minutes and get in there and have an early goal and have it really changed the game for DC going up 2-0 early. And that playing balls through, playing direct, playing attacking style really kind of set the tone for most of our goals today. And that's the way Losada wants to play. Losada wants to take it to you, wants to push it high, wants to create opportunities. We're not going to sit around passing it in the back if we don't have to. But we did plenty of that today too.
Yeah, it was a confidence thing. I think Paredes missed an absolute sitter in one of the last games, and for his goal, there was no doubt it was going in the back of the net. And same thing with Roberto, with a ton of space, one-on-one on the goalkeeper. You just it was one of those, you just kind of stood there and it's like, it's going in. There's nothing you can do. And at that point, what was that, the 8th minute you said? There's no coming back from that. For DC United, we're flying, and at that point in time, the supporters were just getting ready to raise what was an awesome tifo for Big Rob, who we talked about a little bit on the previous shows. Longtime DC United supporter, unfortunately lost his battle with cancer just this past week, and the supporters groups worked together to build a tifo for Big Rob and held a moment of silence in the 12th minute. And to already be up 2-0 in the game when that happened, which had no idea what was coming next, but it was such a poignant moment in the game to do that. And I got to believe Big Rob was thrilled looking down at Audi Field yesterday.
For sure. Yeah, we talked about Big Rob on the show last week when I was absent. But again, to echo what everyone else has said, there's no doubt that he's left an indelible mark on this club. There's no one who has a bad thing to say about the attitude, the passion that he brought, and really what every supporter really should aspire to be is welcoming and supporting a team. And we bleed black and red, and nobody showed it better than Big Rob. And so great to see that tifo up there. Long running beef with Kobe Jones, I guess.
I actually listened to the clip this morning from Kobe Jones Hall of Fame induction. He actually talked about this guy in DC that was constantly giving him stick, even so much at a U.S. game too. So in a way, that's goals to be that deep in a player's head that they remember you years later.
Oh yeah, that's taking it to a whole nother level. Especially we talk about '90s USMNT. There's still some residual bitterness about the last World Cup cycle, but to take it that far back from Kobe's play for the Galaxy is something to behold. But again, nothing but love for Big Rob, and his loss will be felt.
Certainly, and as we transition back to the game, calamitous defending by Toronto led to the third goal for DC. It was very nearly a Paul Arriola goal. It ended up going down as an own goal in the books by Ralph Priso Mbonge. I'm sure I butchered that name, but it was one of those, just if one goal kind of from a Toronto perspective summed up the entire game, it was this one, because it was a slow, ultimately it deflected off a couple players and just slowly rolled into the back of the net as the goalie tried to catch up to it. It was ugly, and that's what sent the supporter section to just an absolute frenzy.
Yeah, it does go down as an own goal. The ball was redirected. The initial shot may have been on target, but it's going to get logged as an own goal. But you're kind of ashamed that Knaus doesn't get credit for taking that shot and having it happen. And kind of wish that Paul had found a way to catch up to it and poke it in and make sure we keep the name on the score sheet. But yeah, again, that was just indicative of the defending you saw from Toronto, getting in front of the ball, but everything going wrong, and as that ball starts trickling toward the end line, like, well, this is one of those days where everything's going to find the back of the net. There's going to be a lot of joy, and I'm glad not to be a Toronto fan today. So a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, it's obviously it doesn't work like this, but there's a small part of me that's like, man, it would be nice to save some of those goals for the future, closer games we're in where we could use one or more. But I think the absolute confidence boost that a game like this is going to give this squad, you just can't overstate it. We do have a question coming in via Twitter here that I'd like to hit. Thanks to James Lambert for listening to the show early this morning, and happy 4th of July. He asked, do you like going into a long break after such a big win, or would you rather have another competitive match this week? I'll take a run at that first. I'd like to play today. Coming off of a game like that, let's go. We're flying high, and the break once again does come at a tough time for DC United. They smashed Miami back in May, and then they had to go on a 2-week break then. Destroyed Toronto. Now we're on another 2-week break, although we do have the Capital Cup, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. But no, I'd love to have another match this week. I don't know that it's necessarily going to hurt and set the team back, but you'd love to have a couple of games in a row here, at least in my mind. What are your thoughts?
I agree. And again, we have to preface it with the fact that, you talked about the big game against Miami before the previous break and this game against Toronto. Those teams are currently 13th and 14th in the conference. So I would love to have another game against Toronto today and tomorrow. And maybe they haven't hopped on the plane yet.
You could mix Miami in there too, I guess.
Yeah, just go back and forth between those two, and you should have an opportunity to pick up a lot of points. And despite them having significantly more expensive rosters than us, but we've hit on that a lot. But to answer James' question, I think you're going to have breaks either way. You can't really control. We're only going to play well if we have a couple games. I think for me, you take advantage of the opportunity you get. There's plenty of times where we're going to have 3 games a week. You've heard the coach talk about some frustration when we've got a game and the other team didn't play midweek, and trying to schedule it all out. Like you can't really meet out the effort. You just have to take the opportunities when they come. And boy, did DC take advantage of the opportunity we got last night, and what a blast to watch.
Yeah, I think the only thing, possibly worse than going into a long break after a massive win would be to be Toronto right now going into a big break, because then you have no opportunity to correct it for a couple of weeks. And so, yeah, there's no complaints no matter what the schedule gives you after a win like this. But yeah, I think ideally we'd be playing again maybe midweek. Before we leave the first half, which we're still in with 3 goals already on the board, Toronto scored their only goal. I have the game on here on a replay. It just happened again. It was a beautiful ball from Michael Bradley. I'll pause for the U.S. men's national team fans listening to throw something into Ayo Akinola, who had a great finish. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot Bill Hamid could have done. I don't want to say it took the air out of the stadium in any way, but there was a little bit of a lump of like, this game's not going to finish 3-2, is it? Like, we don't want to sweat this out. What were your thoughts on the goal?
Yeah, I think you phrase it very well to talk about the reaction in the stadium, because we have seen DC United teams in the past who have taken up big leads. I think it was a Seattle game a couple years ago where you're up 3 and you somehow managed to lose. I think we had a Toronto game as well where you're up 3 and you end up tying 3-3. And we've had so many opportunities where it turned out to disappointment. I'm sure a lot of longtime fans had that, like you said, lump in the throat, saying, well, things are looking good, but things like that are going to go in. It was a great finish from Ayo. It was a beautiful ball from Bradley. Again, not a whole lot that Bill could have done. You could have wanted a little bit better defending. I'm sure that the center backs afterwards were talking to each other, and I'm sure that the coach got on him because he values a clean sheet as much as he values putting up a touchdown. But the at the end of the day, it's hard to complain too much about that one lapse, and I'm sure they'll if you're going to take anything away from work to work on from that, it's going to be that marking and that defending in the back.
Yeah, and it was a relatively slow start to the second half, at least in terms of this game. It took until the 71st minute for DC United to score their fourth goal of the game. Andy Nahar's assist into Paul Arriola. Great finish to go up 4-1, and at that point, there was no doubt the game was definitely put to bed, and the subs that quickly followed that from both teams sort of cleared that up. But big finish for Paul, and I think another player who needs some level of confidence. I mean, he's been playing pretty well this season, but he's also had in the last game had some shots go just wide, and so to have a great finish there, it can't hurt.
Oh yeah, and Paul was mixing it up and involved the whole time. It wasn't like the team was taking a break for that middle 45 or 50 minutes of the game, but to come back out and really leave no doubt with that was the one that put it away for me. It was everything that happened from there on out was just enjoyable gravy, but also a beautiful touch by Paul just to take it around his defender, leave him standing still. And Paul's got the quality that if you give him that much space in the box, he's going to find the back of the net sooner or later, and great to see him take that opportunity.
Yeah, and all within a 10-minute span. So just before this a 15-minute span. But just before this and just after this, DC United made 4 substitutions. So Griffin Yao, Tony Alfaro, Jamil Assad, and Ola Kamara all checking into the match for Adrian Perez, who was a bit silent yesterday. Julian Gressel, who played pretty well. Andy Nahar was outstanding, and Nigel Roberta, who scored early in the game and was a presence throughout. But big chance for some of these guys who I struggle to call them fringe players because they're all playing pretty well and they've all had moments this season, but I don't think they're cracking the starting lineup anytime soon.
Yeah, great to get those guys in, especially when you've got the game fairly well on hand, and have the coach say, let's get some other folks in, and those guys certainly came out, as we'll talk about, and showed in the last 10 minutes or so that they've got the same kind of quality that the starters do, and that's a nice problem to be having. Again, not to get too far out of ourselves, but if it's the problem between we're not creating anything, let's see what else we have, or things are going great, let's mix it up and not wear out guys too much. I'd rather have the latter for sure. It's so nice to be in a position to really see out the game and get some guys in there, particularly Griffin Yao, a guy who has a lot of talent, but partially because of opportunities, had some injury issues. It's sometimes harder for a young guy like Griffin to get on the field in a forward role, particularly when you've got guys like Ariel and a couple other high-priced names up front. It can be a challenge for him, but he definitely put a punctuation on the game there in that 90th minute goal.
Yeah, he sure did. And Griffin was one of those players I thought throughout the game was just playing with a chip on his shoulder, playing with confidence. It forced him into a couple of turnovers, which some fans were kind of quick to point out, and is very true. But I think that's buying into the style of play of, you've got to be aggressive. You've got to take chances. You're not going to win them all. But he actually set up Ola Kamara for the 5th goal. So an assist for Griffin in the 81st minute. And yeah, as you mentioned, we'll kind of skim through these last couple goals pretty quickly here. But for the 7th goal, Griffin, one of the better finishes I've seen this season. And it was shades, slightly different position, but shades of the goal he scored to equalize against Toronto last year when there were no fans in the crowd. And it was Paul Arriola, I think, trying to make enough noise for the entire supporter section behind closed doors that night. But Griffin got, the applause that he certainly deserved for that goal combined with the one he had last night. It was a great play, good ball in to keep it in bounds after he played forward to himself and then cut it back and made the goalkeeper look foolish. Yeah,
that can be a challenge from that tight angle, but full credit to him for stepping forward and saying, "Hey, there's a little bit of a window here. I'm going to crack it. Like, why not?" And like you said, Griffin and the other guys really came out. And when you're a player and you get a more limited opportunity, you're not on from the start. When you enter the game, I don't care if you're up 3 goals, if you're tied, you want to get out there and show the coach, make it difficult for him, make him understand that you've got talent and ability and that you have a chance to make an impact. These guys are not out there to do a little jog around and just count out those last 10 or 15 minutes. They were there to say, hey, I've got the fitness, I've got skill, I'm going to take advantage of my opportunities, and certainly did that today.
Yeah, and another guy who fits that box pretty well is Jamil Assad right now, who I thought played pretty well in the last couple of games where he's had a few minutes and he was able to score. Last night found himself pretty open for a header in the box, and I think he's a guy who fits this style pretty well. But as we've said a few times, it's tough to get starting minutes. But if they keep playing like this, there's gonna be plenty of minutes off the bench available for players as well.
For sure, yeah, and we've been tough on Yamil, and especially we've had some negative things to say about Ola's performance in the last couple of games. Really seems to be hit or miss sometimes, but to have him on that ball played through, it looked like a very similar goal to Roberto's goal in the first half, but to have him come off the bench and have an opportunity like that where he finishes it off. We've talked so much about strikers needing to get on a roll and really see the ball flying back in the net. And I was very happy to see him create there and have it result the way we wanted it to. Again, scoring 3 goals in those last 10 minutes. And you got to acknowledge that Toronto's playing a man down. By that point, I think Zavaleta was sent off in the 78th minute for his second yellow card in about 4 or 5 minutes. It seemed like one of those where the player has more or less decided that he is done being involved with the match today, and he's going to find his way out. That can sometimes be a dangerous situation, and I'm sure that the coaching staff will have plenty to say to him about it afterwards, and he'll miss the next game for Toronto, obviously. But whether you were up, frankly, the way DC United played, controlled, and move the ball around throughout the game, they could have been playing a man up the whole time.
Yeah.
And as the graphic said beforehand, DC United was playing with 12 with Big Rob, so maybe that was the man advantage that they needed, and I'll take that every week.
Yeah, absolutely. After the game, the players were absolutely jacked to be in that situation. The celebration in front of the supporter section was one of the best I remember since, the early Rooney days, perhaps the Orlando game. Hilarious video the team tweeted out. We saw it live of Griffin and Kevin doing some sort of dance, which was hilarious to watch. And then not too long afterwards, Coach Losada had the whole team huddled at the center of the pitch, which in a way was almost indicative of something you'd expect to see after like a tough loss. And he brought them together, and I can only imagine what was said, and hopefully we'll find out here in just a second as we listen back to his post-game press conference. But we put up some content last night looking for wrong answers only of what Coach Losada had to say to the team there, and something worth checking out on the Twitter feed as we got some good responses to that. Michael, anything else before we switch over to Coach Losada's post-game thoughts?
No, I'm excited to hear it. Again, we have not previewed any of the material he's going through today, so we'll be catching it live with all of y'all here on the show, and we'll have some reaction to what should be a fairly jubilant Hernan Losada here in just a second here.
Congrats to all the players, and very happy to have such a performance playing at home at Audi Field with so many fans. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Hernan. Obviously, you never expect to score 7 goals. I'm sure you like to score as many as possible, of course. But in those early moments, to score 3 goals very quickly, what did you see from the team, from the coordination, from the attack that led you to that point?
Well, I saw what we asked for and what we trained for, and that was to play dominant soccer from the very first second. Every home game, I know on the road is kind of difficult, it's not the same, especially in this league, but every home game we want to start this way. We want to be dominant, we want to be the team dictating the speed of the game. And of course, when you score so quickly, not only 1, not only 2, but 3 goals, especially after those performances a couple of weeks ago where we create so much but we couldn't score. Yeah, it's a relief. It's like a lot of weight goes out of the shoulders, and the forwards start to get confidence, and the whole team starts to get confidence. And even though with the 3-0, I always strive for perfection and I push my players to the limits. And with the 3-0, we make a mistake and we go to the halftime with the 3-1, giving them a little bit of hope. And well, that's also something to correct. And that's why my speech during the halftime was, guys, no mistakes, take it seriously. Don't start to be arrogant. Don't start to do things that you never did before and go for the fourth one. And when you score the fourth one, you go for the fifth one, because that's the way we want to play. And that's, we need to do that every home game and every time you have the opportunity, especially when you're coming from games where it was so hard for us to score. And today is the day, then let's go for it. And when you see the attitude of the substitution players who are willing to prove something, willing to take profit of every minute they get, well, it makes me happy to think that we are a group of 20, 22, 23 players who are willing to do whatever it takes to hold the points at home. And that's the strongest part of this team, the togetherness. And no matter how many minutes I get, I'm going to do my best.
Jason, you can go ahead next.
Hernan, congrats. Obviously, a very big day for you and for the team. I was curious to ask about, I know you've said not to ask too many about individual performances, but Andy Nahar seemed to have a lot of success both as part of the back three and then playing in the front three later in the game. How far has he come along since he came in early in the season? You had to build him up physically, obviously.
The progress that Andy has made is impressive. Nicolas Frutos and me, we know him very well from Belgium, from Anderlecht. Nico was working together with him in Anderlecht, and to be honest, nobody believed in him. Absolutely no one. No club, no people in this world believed in him, and DC United gave him an opportunity. We went very slowly, step by step, to the point that he didn't play any single friendly game during preseason, and we were working and building up, and that's why we are so happy with the progress and the way he's playing right now. But knowing that still not enough, he needs to keep on working. He needs to keep on taking care of his body. He was close to stop with football. I mean, he has been 3-4 years dealing with a lot of injuries, and that's why I'm so happy for him. So happy for him because he has so much talent, and the only thing he needed was staff and a club who give him a second chance, who support him in this difficult moment. And well, you see the results after 11, 12 games. That's it, guys.
Hernán, felicitaciones por la victoria hoy. Quiero preguntar, ya que después de este partido va a haber un paro de unas 2 semanas por la Copa de Oro, y va a haber un torneo internacional que van a jugar durante ese periodo de paro. ¿Cómo pretendes usar este tiempo para ver más jugadores que no han tenido muchos minutos en esos partidos amistosos?
Mira, los partidos amistosos serán utilizados, como usted bien dice, para darle minutos a los chicos que no jugaron tanto, para también analizar y ver ciertos chicos de Loudoun United, y algunos chicos recibirán descanso, sabiendo que luego de este break viene otro momento de partidos muy seguidos, así que varios chicos no van a jugar ninguno de los 3 partidos y utilizaremos estos partidos para darle oportunidades a aquellos que jugaron menos, pero también siendo muy precavidos, sabiendo que el jugador también necesita descanso, que descansar también es parte del entrenamiento, y lo más importante es tener a todos disponibles para el próximo partido contra Filadelfia, sabiendo que perderemos también a Paul y a Donovan por 3 o 4 semanas, y que hay algunos chicos regresando de lesiones, como Steven, como Edison Flores, como Drew Scandrich, como Chris O'Doy. Así que les daremos también minutos a ellos y utilizaremos estos partidos para esas cosas. La prioridad será el descanso y que todo el mundo dentro del equipo llegue de la mejor manera posible al próximo enfrentamiento, que es Philadelphia Union.
And then one last question for Hernan. Sarah, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, Coach. Congratulations on a great match. I know in the past you've mentioned that there have been some challenges with kind of rushing in front of goal in the final third, maybe not taking an extra touch where it was needed. And tonight, everything just seemed to click. So what was it that brought such a confident performance that we saw on the field tonight?
A lot of training, a lot of individual meetings, showing clips to the players, showing everything what they have been done the last weeks, all the positives, always focus on the positive. I'm a very positive coach who likes to give trust and confidence in difficult moments. It's very easy to give trust and confidence when everything is going well, but you need to support them when it's going less good. And obviously now with 7 goals, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how many times DC United scored 7 goals in his history. Never. First time ever for DC United to score 7 goals, and I'm very happy to be part of that. So after 12 games, we already write a little bit of history. After 12 games, we already have 5 victories, the same amount of victories that this team had in 2020. A lot of positives, and we're gonna keep on pushing and talking on the positives because that's the best way to correct the things that are going less well or less good, and positive vibe and positive energy. I believe a lot on that. So stay together when it's not going the way we would like to go, and you see the result today. So unbelievable happy, and 2-3 days now. So let's have some fun. Let's enjoy this moment, and on Tuesday we start again.
That's DC United head coach Hernan Losada giving the boys 2 days off, which is big news, and also celebrating the fact that that's the biggest win in DC United's MLS history. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think you heard a lot of similar things coming out of Coach that we were just talking about. Particularly he mentioned subs coming in late and having an impact. And also fascinating to hear his discussion on Andy Nahar, as he said, a guy who had success in Anderlecht, an area that Losada is very familiar with and has had an opportunity to catch Andy in the past. To have him come back to DC after making that move out to Los Angeles and not really having it come off for him. Just so happy to see him playing well here. And, we talked earlier in the season about potential injury concerns, not just Andy, but across the board. This was a team that could barely field a 14-man roster, much less an 18 or a 23. Yeah. But, shout out to the training staff and the coaching staff for, managing their way through it. You're starting to see what this team is going to look like the rest of the season. Again, you can't control for all the injuries, but a guy like Nahar, who's clearly having a resurgence and an exciting time, you got to give a lot of credit to the guys who are keeping him out there on the field.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that kind of stuck out to me was at the end, matched the win total of 2020 already. And look, 2020 was a jacked up year, season, slew of injuries, conditions that everybody had to deal with, but it wasn't easy. But to be there already in a roster that's largely unchanged from last year, granted they're a little bit healthier, but they certainly weren't at the beginning of the season. I think there were a couple games our bench was 5 people. Other teams able to make 5 subs. That was all we had. And to get to this point now where we're just over a third of the way through the season, and to have already matched the win total from last year, I don't know realistically where our expectations were. We can go back to the tail of the tape from preseason, but I don't think we had DC United quite this far ahead at this point in the season. And I recognize we've played Miami twice, we've played Toronto, we've played some teams that aren't that great, but they're comfortable, and I think Losada's getting what he wants out of this team. I wouldn't want to see DC United on the schedule if I was an opposing team at this point. Doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean they don't have vulnerabilities, but I wouldn't want to see them coming up.
Oh, absolutely not. With a team that's enjoying the soccer they're playing, with a team that is, finally finding the back of the net, even if you are a team that's able to, control the game and handle what DC is going to throw at you, it's going to be a long night because they're going to keep pressing. They're going to keep going forward. They're not going to. I don't know if this team knows how to park the bus, but certainly fun to watch. And it's kind of a weird season, like you said. We've had a couple games against Miami, a game against Toronto. So those 5 wins, I think one came against Chicago, two against Miami, and one against Toronto. Those 3 teams are the bottom 3 teams of the East. So we can't start crowning them yet or put them in the playoffs. But right now, DC United's in 6th, 16 points through 12 games. That's a pretty solid mark. You've got a lot of teams sitting there in that 16, 17 point area. And a lot of teams at the top that you aren't used to seeing. Like New England's leading the conference, Orlando in 2nd. And then those big money teams, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Miami, and Toronto are 4 of the bottom 5 teams. It's a strange year, but certainly happy to see it for DC United because it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and as you dissect the standings just a little bit, I mean, we played New England in a really close 1-0 game away early in the season when we didn't have the full roster available. They're in first place, but I don't think that that's a team that particularly scares DC United at this point. They've got a lot of talent. They're playing well, but I don't see them as head and shoulders above the rest of the conference. Orlando playing pretty well. They frustrated Losada quite a bit in the last game. I suspect the game plan will be slightly different for DC United when we see them again. Philly is a team that we played super close at home again. And, when you look at the teams that we got beat pretty handily by, San Jose was playing well at the time, but they're not very good right now. I think that result goes differently. And, Columbus was an interesting game, but that was another challenging away game, 3rd away game in a row, if I recall correctly. Still weren't fully healthy. And we played pretty well in that game with the exception of a couple of bad own goals. That's a point or 3 as well. And so I recognize we're on a run of games against bad teams right now, but I don't think that that's the only reason this team's seeing success, and I suspect they're going to play a lot of these teams that are leading the conference pretty close going forward.
Yeah, and to bounce back after a tough finish to last week's game, anytime that you give up a goal the way we did to finish that game off, it's tough, and I think it tells you something about this team's resiliency and what they're going to do coming out to basically put that completely in the rearview mirror and come out and leave no doubt about how the result was going to go in this game against Toronto.
Yeah, and let's send it back to the podium and hear from one of the players.
Hey, Paul. Great game tonight.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much.
Steve, you can go ahead. Ask your question.
Hey, Paul, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Hey, so this club has done a lot of good things this year, but obviously scoring goals has been a little slow to come along. What led to the breakthrough, you think, today?
I don't know, man. I think just being, persistent and continuing to believe. I to be honest with you, nothing changed during the week. The way we prepared, we prepared the way we have week in and week out. And it just shows that sometimes you can be informed and sometimes, things won't go your way. But today, obviously, everything went our way. And I think everyone feels really good about the way that we went about it and won the game with real conviction.
Jose Imana, you can answer your question.
Hey, Paul, congrats on the win.
Thank you.
I know you said nothing's changed, but what was some of the strategy coming in offensively to counteract Toronto's defense? If you mind telling a little more.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've gone through a few weeks now where we've prepared for teams to play a certain way in a certain formation. and they've come in and they've completely changed the way that they do things. And I think for us, that's a real advantage, because they try and match us, right? They came and started with a 3-back, and for us, we want that. We want to be able to be isolated with our forwards against their center backs, and play wing back to wing back. This is the way we play. This is what we do. And when teams have to come in and kind of change the way that they might be used to doing something, it really benefits us. And so I think that was kind of the key, right? Like, we still have our same principles. We're still making the same movement. We're still looking for the same ways to get in behind, and the interchanging positions, all that stuff is the same, really. And today was obviously a breakthrough type game, and hopefully going forward, we can continue that.
Jason, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, Paul. Congrats. Thanks for speaking with us. I wanted to ask, being, wearing the captain's armband these last few games, I know you've been close with a lot of the younger players on the team, and this game kind of can serve as like a proof of concept for guys like Kevin and Griff to score, and even, Nigel coming in as a new player and getting his second goal. How important was this for guys like that, where these games at home have been, you've had most of the play, but the goals haven't quite come. And then today, obviously, you scored 7.
Yeah, I mean, look, I always say this. I remember what it was like to be a young guy and a new guy on a team, and how important it is to feel confident and to feel like you're able to express yourself. And for me, the captain's band is, I think I've always kind of been a leader on the team, and that doesn't really change too much. I still leave everything I have on the field and do everything I can to help my team win. But more than that, it's just the relationships that I have with the young guys, to keep them going and to keep them going regardless of the good moments or the bad moments, to give them confidence is really what it is. Because, when I was young, I remember the types of players that were tough to play with because you knew they were going to be yelling at you, or they kind of just didn't let you be free. And as I grew older, I knew I wasn't going to be that person. I want to be able to let these guys play because look at the potential that they have. Look at the way that they play, and the type of change that they can make to teams. Right? Kevin finally gets his first goal. Griffin has had a good run of games that have come, after a frustrating time of him not playing a lot, and obviously Moses, being able to be an influential player coming in late in today's game. But it's just about giving them confidence and letting them express themselves freely, really.
Moises, you can ask your question.
Hey, Paul, un abrazo. Gracias por el tiempo y felicitaciones en la actuación del día de hoy. ¿Piensas que por fin se dio algo que venías tú hablando hace tiempo, que era cuestión de creer y tener paciencia? Hoy parece que todo funcionó para el equipo. De tu experiencia, ¿qué fue lo que vistes? Y este ha sido tal vez el triunfo más amplio como jugador a nivel de clubes para ti.
Sí, Moisés, te voy a decir que vamos a seguir igual. Tuvimos un gran partido contra Miami, en Miami, y pensamos que ya estábamos arriba de todos. Yo creo que hoy entendemos que cada partido que salgamos a jugar tenemos que demostrar y tenemos que agarrar el respeto de todos los equipos en la liga, pero es cuestión de nosotros y cómo jugamos. Hoy obviamente se siente increíble meter goles y ganar así, pero para mí el más importante es que sigamos así, que nomás fue un partido, no es el final del torneo. Este fue un partido y el más importante es lo que viene. El próximo partido tenemos que salir igual y creer que podemos lograr todo que queremos este año.
And then one last question, Mario.
Hey, Paul, congratulations on the win and also on your call up to the USMT for the Gold Cup. I just want to ask, how does a dominant result or big result like this, such a dominant performance, help the team's morale going forward into the international break for the Gold Cup and heading into the game against Philadelphia?
Yeah, it feels good. I think obviously, the last game hurt a lot, right? And it's funny the way that sports work. And, the thing is, you can never get too low after a game, and you can never get too high after a game, because, games come quickly and you have a new chance, the minute you step on the field for the following game. And so for us, I think it's just going game at a time, right? And yeah, we enjoy it. We'll enjoy it for the next couple of days, but then it's back to work. We still have a long way to go. It was only one game. It wasn't the final of the MLS Cup. This was just a game at home that we felt that we should have won. And you know what, we would take the 3 points if it would have been a scrappy game and we would have scored 1-0 on an own goal. At the end of it, it's 3 points. Individually, I'm sure it feels good for all of us to be able to get a goal and assist, all that stuff. But again, it's just one game, and so we have to continue to work. We have to continue to believe in what we're doing, believe in each other, and then believe in ourselves, because that's the most important. And obviously, this one feels good for the fans, and to show them love. Obviously, we haven't scored a lot of goals at home this year, so that feels good to have everyone cheering.
That's DC United's captain Paul Arriola joining the media availability after last night's game, and he said it. It's the belief, and it's the we're going to get 3 points no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, a game like yesterday does nothing but build your confidence. To find the back of the net, to have a successful result. Again, against a team that historically has been class of the league these last decade or so. Maybe we're at the back end of that, and we're not going to go too far out there, but maybe we're moving into a DC United decade of prominence here. Paul, talked a little bit about the importance of having the captain's armband and having that responsibility as a leader on the team, and he really bears that out, day in, day out. He's, like you said, he's working a lot with the young guys. You saw appearances from lots of homegrown players. Bill Hamid, a veteran now, but still a homegrown guy. Donovan Pines out there with a solid game. Kevin Paredes, what a day for him. Moses Nyman and Griffin Yao both getting in late and having an impact as well. This is a team that's got a lot of young guys out there, and they benefit a lot from a veteran presence like Paul. And you saw a little bit of the multifaceted skill set from Paul as well, answering the question in Spanish there, from his time back with Cholos and Tijuana. Obviously, a man of many talents and a player close to all of our hearts.
Yeah, and having talked to Paul and Griffin and Kevin on the show before, they've all talked about that. It's important to Paul to be a mentor to the young players, and I think the young guys have also all said, he's a guy who's always there for them. I vividly remember how excited Paul was for Griffin's first goal last year. He was one of the first players over to congratulate Kevin last night, and of course, awesome assist from Griffin, and then a great exclamation point as the replay of the game here shows Yamil Assad tackling Griffin Yao after setting him up for the 6th goal of the night. And they're having a lot of fun. And I think that the togetherness of this group is huge. And want to talk just a little bit here before we go to the last player. Both Kevin Paredes and Moses Nyman, it sounds like, will be joining the men's national team for training, at least ahead of the Gold Cup sessions. They were on the preliminary roster. They did not get called into the final roster, but of course Donovan Pines and Paul Arriola did. And so big opportunity there for the homegrown contingent to continue to work together for the Stars and Stripes along with their mentor, Paul. And so I think that's huge opportunity for them, not only working together, but as they start to embark on what's hopefully a prosperous national team career as well.
Oh, for sure. And, we're obviously can talk a little bit about the Gold Cup coming up here in these next few weeks. It sounds like obviously Paul and Donovan are on the main roster, but having these other two guys and Nyman Paredes out there working with the team, potentially available as an injury if that develops. But again, not wishing that on anybody, but it's going to be a long month. We expect that the the men's team is going to make it out of their group and progress. And we're going to have a little bit of a hole there if you got 4 guys, who are contributing massively for this club once we come past this gold curve break there. But again, such a great opportunity for them to really show what they can do. And I'm completely fine with it if DC United is playing with 4 guys who make the national team roster. Again, Gold Cup, it's a little bit a different beast. We've got a Euro movement going on there, but again, nothing but happiness for those guys with that opportunity.
Yeah, and it certainly opens up the possibility for some of the guys we talked about who've been playing well and they've been coming in as substitutes. There's at least going to be a Donovan Pines-sized hole in the back line, which is a very large-sized hole for the record, to potentially allow Steven Birnbaum to come back in and maybe Griffin Yao or Jamil Assad are able to step in for Paul.
And a name that we haven't talked about here in a while, but we're coming up on that 6-week mark. Edison Flores, had that injury at the end of May.
Oh, that's right.
A name that we haven't heard. That one of DC United's DP players. Hard to mess with a good thing right now with the results we've been getting. But if he can find a way to slot in and take advantage of the opportunities coming up here in these next few weeks, again, hope his injury is progressing and healing, and he'll be up to that fitness level that Losada demands. But he's going to have his opportunities here, and I think we're all hoping that he takes it.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because looking at a game like last night, I've talked on the last couple of shows about how goals don't all have to come from the striker position, and they shouldn't all come from the striker position. And we saw last night that they certainly don't have to. There's plenty of players on this team that are capable of finding the back of the net in many ways. And boy, is it a roster right now ripe for a return of a guy like Edison Flores, because if they keep playing like this, the weight of the entire team's success won't be on Flores' shoulders. And I think that's the type of system that he needs right now to get his confidence under him. He's had a really rocky introduction to MLS between injuries, COVID-19, interrupting everything, no crowds in stands, comes back this year, starts to maybe get going, and he gets hurt again. And so to come back to a team that hasn't lost 6 games in a row and is just starving for their number 10 to come back, it's potentially a really good situation for him to return to.
For sure. Again, nothing but opportunities moving forward, and perhaps the break and the fixture congestion comes at a good time for those guys. MLS is not a league where you can have a best 11 and just roll that week in, week out. There's always going to be injuries. There's always going to be call-ups. There's always going to be weird things going on. Most years you've got Open Cup games to work with. There's plenty of different competitions. You see regularly the best teams in the league are teams that are able to get production across the board, not just relying on that top 11. We've talked about how MLS is a long season, and you're really aiming to set yourself up to come playoffs. And that's what you do. You get the guys out there. You get the points where you can. You grind it out. You have some great games like you have yesterday. But then by the time you get to the end of the season, you've settled into what your team can do best, what the guys give you the best opportunity to win. And even then, who knows when somebody's going to pull up with a hamstring injury, or the next guy has to be ready to slot up. So it's such a great opportunity for these guys moving forward. And let's hope they take it. The coach has shown that he's willing to give guys minutes, willing to mix things up a bit. And if you buy into the system, if you play the way that he's trying to play, you're going to get an opportunity. And you can't really ask for much more than that as a player.
No, you can't. And let's send it back to the press room for the final player availability of the match.
Good.
Hey, Kevin. Great match tonight.
Hello. Thank you.
Here's Steve for the first question.
Hey, Kevin, congratulations. Describe not just your goal, but the rush of goals early for the team and the level of confidence that you guys showed, especially early in the match.
Yeah, coming off the NYCFC game, we were devastated that it ended how it was, and I think this game we came with that anger and that motivation from last game, and tuck it in early. And then my goal for me was a moment that I'm never going to forget in my life. My family's never going to forget. The rush of goals today was unreal. We got to thank the fans, the coaches for believing in us, and all the hard work and preparation for this game. It showed today. And I can't be more proud of myself and especially the team.
Sarah, you have the second question.
Hey, Kevin, congratulations on a fantastic match and your first goal. It's been a long time coming. I know a lot of people are really happy right along with you. And I was wondering, could you walk us through your thought process when you got that ball? What was going through your head?
Yeah, many talks with Hernan. Basically, my positioning is to be in that spot. He said, if I'm in that spot, something's good going to happen. I had that spot against Miami. And we all know that, I unfortunately missed that one, but I knew if I ever got that chance again, I was going to put that one away. Once it came to me, I don't know, I swung through it. I saw it go top bins, and I was very excited. I got to thank especially my parents for, always believing in me. My mom, she would always take me to DC Academy training when she was in college. So she would, do a lot of her schoolwork in the car on late nights for me. My dad always, worked very hard for myself and my two brothers to keep us out of trouble. And I got to give big thanks to my agent for giving me some confidence that, I'd never had in my life. And then most of all is the man above for always looking out for me and my family.
Jose, go ahead with your question.
Congrats, Kevin, on the win. Like it was mentioned earlier, you don't expect 7 goals in this match. So what things do you think you guys still need to work on heading with these 2 weeks off to prepare you guys for Philadelphia?
Yeah, we got to keep the same hunger and same motivation to go into Philly. You could tell we're a different team now. We're from the first game to this game. We're a lot more motivated. We're getting our chances. And I've always heard coach, like, once we get our chances, we're going to start tucking them away. The more we get, we're going to tuck them away like we did today. And next game against Philly, we're going to bring this, this fight and energy that we did today and bring it over for the next game.
And then one last question. Mario, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, congratulations on getting your first career goal. I just got to ask, how finally getting the first goal, how's that able to become more of a confidence booster moving forward?
Yeah, throughout my whole academy career, I always scored more than 15 goals each season. So, not scoring one last season, getting a late goal this season, I always just need one goal to start get going. I'm gonna get like I did. I got my first one today, and that's gonna keep motivating me, keep me hungry for more goals. I'm a goal scorer, so I'm gonna stick to my word and keep scoring as many as I can for this club.
That's DC United's Kevin Paredes coming off the first goal of his MLS career, and certainly a great friend of our show. What more can you say? The heart of this kid and the talent of this kid that's now shining through. The future's bright for DC United.
Oh, for sure. Obviously we've talked ad nauseum about our love for Kevin's game, and him as a person who's definitely a shining star on this team, and so great to see him. And let's be fair, some of the good things coming out of last year, the fact that you got a chance to see Kevin Paredes on the field and really start to get some of those minutes in a season that, for all intents and purposes, was lost. You no way to sugarcoat it, but you're seeing a chance for Kevin to start making a real impact this season, and he's a guy who's made his way onto the field. He's playing that outside back winger position. Not often that you hear a guy playing that role saying, "Yeah, I'm a goal scorer." But yeah, he's a guy who's played a lot of different spots on the field and has adjusted well to the Losada system, coming back from injury over the offseason. He's a guy who's having a fantastic season so far. He's again, what more can you say? I did think it was interesting. You heard him talking a little bit. We mentioned his sitter against Miami earlier that he completely flubbed, and you got to be to channel our Ted Lasso. You got to be a goldfish to some extent.
That's right.
Forgetting about the bad things that you've done before, but you can't tell me that these players aren't excited to have a game where everything goes right and to get off to such a great start. Wow, what a game! What a great time for Kevin.
And it's so well deserved for him. He's absolutely right. And just to hear, I mean, man, I have so much respect for him. It's such a young kid, and he not only does he say all the right things, but he does all the right things. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to get a goal or a missed opportunity like that out of your head, and to turn it into such a positive for him of like, yeah, I should have finished that. But instead of dwelling on it and letting it bother me, I'm going to keep getting in position because that's what coach says to do. And next time I have a chance, not only am I going to put it on frame, I'm going to put it where no one can stop it, right in front of 10,000 screaming fans. And it's enormous for his confidence, and the sky's the limit for this guy. I'm so excited for him.
Hey, yeah, I don't think he called for 15 goals, but if he's used to scoring 15, I will take it, and we will be all on board for this and many more Kevin Prade's goals moving forward.
This is a guy that guaranteed he'd bring us an MLS Cup, so I'm just assuming he's going to start scoring 15 goals a season now.
And not one of those rusty old ones we've got sitting around in the team shop, but like a brand new one.
That's right. With that, let's transition into our Man of the Match segment. The team last night, as voted on by fans, awarded the Man of the Match to Andy Nahar. Michael Black, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I may have previewed it a little bit earlier. In a game where 7 guys score and you've got a complete team performance, I can't disagree with giving it to Andy Nahar. Like I said, he was involved in creating all of those opportunities. I felt like a man who's all over the place, really animating the game, and he's flourishing so well in the system. I've got no problem giving it to Nahar. Honorable mention to Kevin, of course, because he had his first goal, and so excited to see that. But for me, in a game where so many people score, the man who made it happen gets the credit for me. So Andy Nahar.
Yeah, Joshua and Sam will be proud of us for both choosing a non-goal scorer because as they repeatedly tell us, it doesn't always have to go to a goal scorer. Even in a 7-1 performance, I'm with you. Andy Nahar had just a phenomenal game, and so happy for him as a human, coming back from all the challenges he's had, and he's pulling the strings out there. Did he have 2 assists last night? I'm scrolling through very quickly. Yeah,
felt like a lot more.
Yeah, and I mean he's got the best balls in the league. I'm not ashamed to say it. He's played so well, and honorable mentions to all the goal scorers. Kevin, outstanding way to start the game. I'm sure I don't know, man. I feel like it's too easy to say that Sam would have given Man of the Match to Kevin tonight, but I think there would have been good shouts from both of those guys for Andy Nahar as well.
It would not have been as much of a stretch as it has been sometimes.
Speaking of earlier, okay.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier it's tough when you need to miss a game, and we obviously you can tune into our show every time we're live after games and breaking it down. But that's the thing we love about the sport is giving opportunity to go out and enjoy it. You never know what's going to happen. Thinking back to some of the amazing moments at Audi Field and at RFK beforehand. We show up every week and hoping for the best, and sometimes it doesn't come through. But with an opportunity like we got yesterday to watch a historic game for DC United, such a blast and such a fun experience to be a part of.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I wanted to go next. Was we've all seen so many good games over the years, and we could talk about the best games that we've been to. I want to talk a little bit about the best game that you didn't get to go to. For me, it sticks out pretty clearly. It was the 2018 season. Everything was clicking in the second half. We played a home game what felt like every other day because Audi Field opened late in the season. Lucha Roo was at the absolute peak. And I was away in Maine to attend a wedding for my cousin, which was a great time. The food was phenomenal. But I had my phone out on a janky Wi-Fi connection, and the stream was kind of bad. That could be a Flow Sports joke, but 5-0 DC United over Montreal. That was the game I missed, and that was like the coming out party of, we're gonna tear this thing up. MLS Cup is a possibility this year. Of course, we all know how that ended, but to me, missing that game, that was tough. That's one that'll always stick out to me. Is I wish I was there. Is there one for you?
For sure. I think there are two that come to mind as far as a game that was just a goal fest and a lot of fun to watch. There was a game that we had against, I think it was RSL a couple years ago. Patrick Mullins. So yeah, I did say Patrick Mullins because he scored I think 3 or 4 goals that game, and I had to miss it. And but the other one that comes to mind first was one that I missed was our playoff game against Columbus, a game that at the end of the day did not go our way. That was a frustrating way to finish, but to have Nick DeLeon hit that beautiful finish in overtime to really push it all the way was that was probably the toughest one to miss because the circumstances involved with why couldn't we be there. But it was it's always tough to miss a game, but there's a reason we show up week in, week out, and we miss it when we don't. So
yeah, for sure. And we look forward to seeing Joshua and Sam back very soon. Coming up for the Black and Red, we've got the Capital Cup. For what that's worth, they play LD Alajuelense on July the 7th, Club Puebla on July 11th, and Alianza FC on the 14th. We'll see sort of what we do as a show. I don't believe we're planning to cover those games, but perhaps we'll be able to use it as an opportunity to test getting back in the stadium. Still working on that, which is why we're talking to you on Sunday morning instead of right after the game. But just real quick on the Capital Cup, what do you expect to see from DC United in this competition?
Well, I'm a little surprised to see DC United's badge on there because I'm thinking it's going to be a lot of Loudon products out there. We've talked about before. We're happy to see the team putting Audi Field to use, and you've got a little bit of a break here, but I think you'll see a chance for maybe some guys to get some minutes who haven't been able to do it recently. I think you'll see a lot of Loudon products from DC United. I hope that the level of play is something that is high enough to make it worthwhile and make it be fun to do. But I also do not want anyone coming out of these games that don't matter a whole lot to potentially pick up an injury. You can't be
top priority.
You can't be scared of getting hurt. As soon as you do that, you're going to run into a whole different set of mental challenges. But just hope everyone stays safe, and maybe we'll see some fun soccer. A couple of big names there from like Alajuelense and Puebla, teams that we've seen in Champions League over the years. It should be fun. I think we'll try to make an appearance or two, and I guess that's. And to be fair, these meaningless tournaments can sometimes be awesome. I think back to playing. I think it was a tournament in Dallas where the winner of the preseason tournament was awarded an armadillo, and that's
United's most recent trophy.
Yep,
and potentially most awesome trophy.
I don't know if there's much potential about it. As far as a trophy goes, it's much better than a plate or a big cup. But we'll take all the silverware we can get. So maybe a team has cooked up something special for the Capital Cup winners.
Yeah, I'm with you on the tournament as a whole. I look forward to seeing many of the homegrowns who we haven't seen a whole lot of. Jacob Green, hopefully. DC United just signed Jeremy Garay as a homegrown deal. So as a midfielder, good opportunity for him to get some minutes. Obviously, there's a lot of players on this side who haven't seen a whole lot of playing time lately, so I think it'll be a good opportunity for them. And as you mentioned, the Loudon United players, big opportunity for them. I mean, to see guys like Kyra Mustafa and Johnny Bolivar play in these games, I think is going to be super, super exciting because those are playmakers. They're obviously at a lower level in terms of the league right now, but they're young guys. They've got a chance to potentially break into the fringes of this DC United team, and this is a good opportunity to do it. In what I gotta expect will be pretty decent crowds with the teams that are coming. Obviously we know the South American and the Hispanic population in the DC area is massive, and so I'm excited to see what sort of crowd some of these other teams in the Cup bring to Audi Field.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great to see DC United trying to tap into the market and put out a product that's enjoyable to watch, and hopefully will bring some additional fans in. Folks who maybe aren't going to a game but haven't really had that final push to go. But once you get out there, once you have a chance to visit Audi Field and enjoy everything that the game day experience has to offer, it's hard not to get hooked. Obviously, we are. That's why we follow the team. That's why we support week in and week out. It's a blast to watch. So again, let's have some fun at the Catholic Cup.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, speaking of, if you can't make it out to the games, as I'm continuing to rewatch the game from last night, all 3 DC United games will be televised on NBC Sports Washington. So great to see local TV availability for the games as well. I take that to say that the other games each night won't be broadcast. So if you're interested in seeing the other game and kind of how things stack out in the standings, you'll have to come out to Audi Field. But one ticket gets you 2 games every night, which is exciting. And speaking of Loudoun United, they picked up a massive win earlier this week against Pittsburgh, a 2-1 win. I think that's their first win against Pittsburgh, and a team that's been knocking on the door so much this season. Big win for them. They're in action again today out at Segra against the team they play once or twice a week, Hartford.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to get out there today, but always fun to watch Loudoun. And it sounds like Segra has gotten itself in a position where it's, I believe the quote was better than some other professional facilities out there in the leagues. So definitely glad to see that. And we had discussions about what we expect out of Loudoun and what we're looking for there, but it's always a good time, and particularly when you see some of those young guys like you mentioned, particularly Bolivar, and it's they're fun to watch. If you can't get enough soccer, if the fact that Euros are slowing down a little bit, Copa America is starting to have a little bit of a break, not quite the Gold Cup yet. It's crazy to me that we still don't know who the United States is playing here in less than a week to kick off the Gold Cup. But wow, it's such a blast to watch.
Yep, fully finished facilities with running water out there, which is long awaited news and exciting for them and the Spirit as well, who played their first game at Segra Field this season. Unfortunately, it was a 1-0 loss to Chicago on Friday night, but they're back in action on Saturday, this time at Audi Field against the North Carolina Courage. So lots of things moving for the Spirit. Of course, they've got some players away on Olympic duty, so it'll be an interesting couple weeks for the Spirit, but that's another league that's always filled with good games and high quality soccer.
Yeah, I mean, Trinity Rodman has been a revelation this year. It's not often that you have draft picks that come in, and obviously every league's a little bit different, but a lot of fun to watch there. And the Spirit will be dealing with their own challenges with players called up and dealing with the Olympics here moving forward. It's hard to complain as a soccer fan that we've got so many opportunities to watch our players, and either playing for the club or for a country. It's a great time to be a soccer fan, particularly when you think back to where we were at just a year ago, where
starved of soccer.
I will take every game I can get moving forward for sure.
Yeah, and with that, I think it's time to call it a show. We miss anything?
I think DC United has scored again.
Toronto, Alex Bono's still in the back of the net, pulling balls out left and right.
Wilson has got to take a lozenge or something after telling us how many times it was in the net yesterday.
That's for sure. We missed having Joshua and Sam on the show. We'll be back soon, and we'll talk to you guys real soon. In the meantime, happy Independence Day for our friends here in the U.S. and to our friends in the U.K. Guys, it's not coming home. I'm telling you, it's not coming home.
Hey, happy Independence Day to our friends in England too.
We'll talk to you guys soon, right here on Tried and True, the morning after show presented by Heineken 0.0.